Hi, I'm Beth, and I'll be reading you Friday, January 17th, e-edition of the Bourne Enterprise. Here's your first front page headline: Town cancels meetings following cyber attack. All of the scheduled meetings in Bourne were canceled this week after an announcement that the town's information technology systems were targeted last weekend in what police are investigating as a cyber attack. Both town and police officials have declined to answer any questions regarding the nature, origin, and breadth of the attack, citing ongoing investigations, and the connection between the cyber attack and the town's ability to hold public meetings remains unclear. What we do know is that Bourne police issued a statement last Sunday informing residents of the potential that the town information technology network had been compromised the day before. The police confirmed that the department and the town's 911 services were not impacted in the breach, and those services remain fully functional. Town phone systems and email communication with the town do not seem to be impacted. Town Administrator Marlene McCullum this week said she could not comment on why the town's meetings were canceled or what information systems were impacted by the attack, citing ongoing investigations into the matter. Bourne police have said the department is working with other agencies to investigate the incident as a criminal matter and are assessing the extent and impact of the breach. The meetings canceled include the Bourne Historic Commission on Tuesday at 10, the Bourne Sewer Commission Tuesday at 6 p.m., the Bourne Select Board on Tuesday at 7, the Zoning Board of Appeals on Wednesday at 7, the Council on Aging on Thursday at 11, and the Bourne Board of Assessors Friday at 10 a.m. According to the town's website, all meetings and agenda items will be rescheduled to a future date. The police said updates will be provided as they become available. No further information has been released since Sunday. The Select Board held an emergency meeting on Monday, during which it authorized Ms. McCullum to hire special town counsel for emergency purposes. At present, the town's IT page does not list any staff. When asked whether the town outsources its IT or doesn't have any IT personnel, Ms. McCullum said she was unable to provide any information regarding the town's IT resources. In addition, she said she was unable to comment on what information or systems, if any, were compromised in the cyber attack. Former Bourne IT Director Robert Przewozny contacted the enterprise by email on Monday, citing concerns about the security of the network, which he said he attempted to address while working for the town. Mr. Przewozny was terminated from his position as the town's IT director in March 2023, less than a year after being hired. At the time, Ms. McCullum said his termination was related to inappropriate emails that were not work-related and could be construed as offensive. During a phone interview last May, Mr. Przewozny told the enterprise that leading up to his termination, he was working on a project to improve the security of the town's computer systems. The emails in question, he said, were sent to a subordinate in the IT department and included links to websites he said he wanted to block from being accessed through the town's system. We were documenting and working on intrusion protection because there was nothing, he said last May. There was free rein in the town. Based on his knowledge of the town's technology, Mr. Przewozny said this week he wasn't surprised to hear that 911 and dispatch were unaffected because they operate on a completely different system. When asked on Wednesday whether Bourne Public Schools were affected by the cyber attack, Superintendent Carrie Ann Quinlan-Jew said did not confirm or deny, but did note the schools maintain their own servers and networking. In an online post on Monday, the Jonathan Bourne Public Library wrote that the library is open, but things might be a little slow as the town deals with some computer issues. Another front page headline: Rec Authority contemplates the Seaweed Shack's future. Members of the Bourne Recreation Authority are working to determine the ultimate fate of the concession stand at the John Gallo Ice Arena. Business has been lackluster, with fewer people coming to the rink, and the authority's board of directors is determined to figure out why and what to do about it. The issue was raised during the board of directors meeting on Monday. The downturn in business was broached by Bobby Williams and Sarah Hannon, the current operators of the Seaweed Shack. In a letter to the board, Mr. Williams requested a $1,600 waiver, which amounts to 4 months of the $400 monthly rental fee in their contract with the Rec Authority. The Select Board granted Mr. Williams and Ms. Hannon a license to operate the Seaweed Shack in October 22. In his letter to the Rec Authority, Mr. Williams said that since taking over operations, he has lost money due to a lack of business. They provided some information that indicated they're not making money or losing money, Rec Authority member Robert Buckley III said. They've looked at different ways of cutting costs to be profitable, but the ultimate result is that business is just slow. Mr. Buckley noted that he was at the rink on January 8th when there were 3 high school hockey games played back to back to back. He confirmed that there were few people in the stands, calling the attendance pretty pathetic. He speculated that Mr. Williams and Ms. Hannon likely will not renew their contract with the Rec Authority unless they put together a new proposal with a different financial package. He also pointed out that the contract between the authority and the couple is essentially what they came up with when the couple responded to the authority's request for proposal to operate the rink's concession stand. They made some assumptions that this business would generate this amount of money, Mr. Buckley said, and for whatever reasons it hasn't materialized. Mr. Williams, a teaching golf pro who previously worked at Pocasset Golf Club, operates a golf simulator in a corner of the rink under a separate contract. People can either take a lesson with him or choose one of approximately 40 different golf courses from around the world on which to play. Ironically, the golf simulator business is doing well, Mr. Buckley said. The immediate question the Rec Authority needs to answer, he continued, is what to do about the waiver request. The long-term question, he said, is how to resolve the issue of low concession business. He said he has seen 3 vendors fail to make the snack bar at the rink profitable. Each one struggled with the same problems, he said, adding he is uncertain as to the solution. Rec Authority board members offered possible reasons for the inability of the concession stand to prove profitable, one of which stemmed from the board's decision to provide the public with remote access to games and practices held at the rink. In fall 2023, the authority opted to make Live Bourne, an online youth and amateur sports streaming app, available to the public. The service allows people to watch games and practices remotely rather than having to travel to the arena. Board members cited the online service as one possible cause for the lack of attendees at the rink and the subsequent lack of business for the Seaweed Shack. We did something that we thought was going to be good, Authority member John Coughlin said, and it seems to be backfiring a little bit. Mr. Buckley said he has not seen any evidence that Live Bourne is why attendance is down at the rink, but didn't rule it out. John Morrill, the operations manager facility supervisor for the Rec Authority, confessed he has used the app on occasion rather than sitting inside the rink. I'll be honest with you, I was like, I'm not going to go down there, Mr. Morrill said. I'm guilty. Rink manager John Hickey said he believes Live Bourne is a piece of the problem when it comes to filling the stands during games and practices. Mr. Hickey said that prior to installation of the service on a typical weekend morning, there would be upwards of 100 people attending a youth hockey game. Now there's about 20, he said. Is it a direct issue with Live Bourne? It could be, but it's just a weird dynamic right now, he said, adding that other rinks are experiencing the same problems. Rec Authority Chairman Gregory Foligno agreed with Mr. Buckley that the waiver request is not the real issue. The real problem, he concurred, is what to do with the space where the Seaweed Shack is located in order to make it profitable. Mr. Foligno noted that a number of rinks have chosen to go with vending machines simply because they don't see a market in snack bars. Mr. Morrill referenced Edge Sports Center in Bedford as being busy all the time and pointed out that all it offers is a small convenience store with one employee at work. He also mentioned a survey he was shown that listed the Seaweed Shack as one of the top 5 snack bars in the area. He said the placement in the survey shows the concession stand is providing good food, but the problem is there just aren't any customers. Mr. Morrill added that Edge Sports Center is home to the East Coast Wizards youth hockey program. The walls of the main rink at the building are lined with championship banners won by the Wizards. The banners reflect the commitment to the club program, he said, which is helped by the sale of team merchandise. Mr. Morrill suggested that a possible solution would be to rent the Seaweed Shack space to Cape Cod Canal Youth Hockey. If Canal's trying to boost their organization, he said, maybe Canal wants to rent the space and it'd be a store for Canal Youth Hockey, so they'd be responsible for getting somebody in there to sell Canal gear and convenience store items. I think this is a complicated problem, Mr. Foligno said. We've been dealing with this for a couple of years. We heard the backlash with people. Let's be proactive and address it in early spring, so come September, we've resolved it, whatever it may be. Board members agreed that the issues of what to do with Seaweed Shack space, as well as the scarcity of people attending games and practices, is a complicated issue. A motion was made for Mr. Foligno and Mr. Buckley to work with Mr. Morrill to investigate the best possible use of the snack bar area and to waive the $1,600 rental fees as requested by Mr. Williams. The motion was seconded and approved unanimously. Another front page story. Members of the Bourne community have banded together to give the Bourne High School class of 26 a gift of safety after their May 16th prom. Christy Hawks, mother of high school junior Ty Hawks, began spearheading an after-prom party after learning the school didn't intend to host one. My older two children both had 3 or 4 after-prom parties that I volunteered for. My son, who's now a junior, went with me to help set up for all of them. He was really bummed out when he went to the prom last year that they didn't have an after-prom for him to attend, she said, adding that Ty asked her to plan the party for his class. In an email to the Enterprise, Ty said he got the idea of creating an after-prom after helping set up past events for his siblings and hearing firsthand about the experience they had when they came home to brag about it. I felt I had to do something due to the lackluster post-prom events as well as the minimal inclusivity of it. I had supportive feedback from people in my grade to go forward with this idea, Ty said. I've come up with ideas for the after-prom, presenting them to my friends and taking any suggestions they had, but all of it wouldn't be possible without my mom, who has turned my words into reality. From there, the planning process quickly took off. Ms. Hawks contacted Zoe and Michaela Noonan, the junior class president and vice president, respectively, to seek their support. She secured the Bourne Veterans Memorial Community Center from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. on May 16th for the event. She also reached out to Falmouth Together We Can, which has planned after-prom parties for almost 30 years and whose input and support she described as amazing. There definitely is a lot more to it when you don't have the support of the schools. Things are more expensive, Ms. Hawk said. I have to pay for private insurance. I'll have to cover the custodial detail, the police detail, and the fire detail. Different things that at the school would probably be covered. Select Board member Peter Meyer said he's disappointed that the high school administration wants nothing to do with the party. This is the safest alternative to make sure that the kids are in a safe place, that they can have fun together, and it's a night they won't forget, Mr. Meyer said. This is something the school department should be getting behind because at least people will know where the kids are and won't be reading about them as a statistic if someone gets injured or ultimately killed. The fact that the school leadership is pushing back on it is sad. He added he hopes the town can make the party a recreation department event so that it falls under town insurance. The fact that a mother has to go out and raise $20,000 and get volunteers, it shouldn't have to come to that. This should be automatic as a budget item in the school or town budgets. Mr. Meyer noted that he had not spoken directly to anyone from the school, but that parents had contacted him seeking support. Bourne High School Principal Lisa McGuire didn't respond to inquiries about after prom in time for publication. For Ty, the inclusivity aspect of the party is crucial. I noticed that every year people are left out from celebrating with their friends due to invite-only parties thrown after prom. These parties are not only unsafe but unfair to individuals that have spent almost their whole school career together to be left out on one of the most important nights of their high school experience, he wrote. I feel that having an after prom will give parents peace of mind as well as give the students a safe, drug, and alcohol-free environment to celebrate together. To encourage students to stay at the party until 5 a.m., Ms. Hawks and her team plan to have a wide variety of activities. Depending on funding, they hope to have inflatables, a hypnotist, a comedian, a photo booth, a DJ, and karaoke. There will be spaces like a board game and art room for students who prefer a relaxed, low-sensory environment. Additionally, they intend to hold raffles throughout the night and have tons of food. Ms. Hawks said that ideally she will have community members sponsor a themed room. Although Ms. Hawks is the driving force behind the after-prom party, she expressed gratitude for the support of the students and community, including Bourne Rec Director Katie Matthews. Zoe and Michaela Noonan, on the other hand, give almost all credit to Ms. Hawks. I'm really grateful to Ms. Hawks for being so there for us. I remember when we first sat down with her and talked about it, it was really overwhelming, Michaela said. She's incredible. I'm really excited and grateful that she started something like this for us because I think it's really important, and our school wasn't willing to do it after prom. The fact that she was able to step into that space where it's not really her job or responsibility, but she still took that initiative and is working so closely with us, I'm really excited about it. In other school news, the Upper Cape Cod Regional Technical High School has been accepted into the Massachusetts School Building Authority's eligibility period. The school hopes to receive partial funding for a new roof on the main building, along with a new gym and cafeteria. Superintendent Roger Forget said this week that the school submitted statements of interest for the past 4 or 5 years before being fortunate enough to be invited this year. According to the superintendent, the main building's roof had a 20-year lifespan but has not been replaced in 26 years. He added the need for a new gym and cafeteria stems from increased enrollment. The school was originally built to accommodate 500 students, but its population has grown to approximately 857. As a result, the gym can no longer hold the entire student body and faculty all at once, and even with 4 lunch periods, the cafeteria is at full capacity. Because there is such an interest in vocational education in the trades, our enrollment has grown. We see that in our 5 sending towns, he wrote, noting that as a vocational school, UCT's application to the MSBA will stand out. I think it's an outstanding model for students to want to come here and prepare themselves for their next stage in life without having any college debt or anything following them. They're utilizing this as a springboard for their careers. MSBA will work with the district during the 270-day eligibility period, which begins on March 1st, to determine its financial and community readiness to enter the capital pipeline. Mr. Forget said this includes meeting with the town administrators of the 5 towns that UCT serves, which is Bourne, Falmouth, Marion, Sandwich, and Wareham, to discuss the project's cost projection and what percentage MSBA may fund. In other news, on Wednesday, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey announced proposed significant new changes to the state's right to shelter law this week, including imposing a statutory residency requirement for families and strengthening criminal background checks. The governor submitted the recommendations in a letter to the Senate President, Speaker, and House and Senate Ways and Means chairs, urging the changes to be in the Emergency Assistance Supplemental Budget. The proposed changes to the right to shelter law include strengthening criminal background checks. Governor Healey's proposal would require all applicants to disclose criminal convictions in Massachusetts or elsewhere, implementing a statutory requirement of residency and intent to remain. Currently, any intent to remain in Massachusetts may be proven solely through self-attestation. This change would require that anyone receiving emergency assistance show an intent to remain in Massachusetts, either through independent document verification or through 3 months of physical presence in the state. Eliminating presumptive eligibility. Under the existing law, shelter applicants are presumed to be eligible for shelter and receive shelter benefits prior to producing the necessary documentation. Under Governor Healey's proposals, shelter applicants would be required to verify their identity, residency, and status prior to placement. And changes to eviction eligibility criteria. Currently, families may be eligible for shelter based on several types of no-fault eviction, but without geographic limitation. As a result, people who have been evicted in other states may come to Massachusetts for shelter. The administration proposes requiring evictions to occur in Massachusetts to support eligibility, eliminating the scenario where a neighboring state eviction leads to an individual coming to this state to seek emergency assistance shelter. And requiring lawful status for all members of families with rare exceptions. Governor Healey's proposal would require all family members to show they are U.S. citizens or lawfully present in the U.S., with the rare exception for those households that include a child who is a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. Massachusetts became the only state in the country to adopt a right to shelter law 40 years ago, which was designed to provide housing for families in need, specifically pregnant women and children experiencing homelessness. For the past 3 years, thousands of families have been arriving in Massachusetts from other states and countries seeking shelter. And this story, the Jonathan Bourne Public Library will host its first public engagement meeting for the library feasibility study on Monday, January 27th at 5 p.m. According to the town website, the meeting will provide an opportunity to learn more about the study, share feedback, and help shape the future library building to reflect the needs and aspirations of your community. The study is a vital step in planning for the library's future, addressing current needs while considering long-term goals. The study's objective is to explore potential concepts and produce a plan moving forward that incorporates community feedback in collaboration with data collected through current facility assessments. Whether you're a frequent library patron, a resident, a student, a business owner, or simply passionate about the future of our community, your voice matters. And a reminder that Monday is Martin Luther King's birthday and a holiday, so all are invited to gather in person to celebrate his legacy on Sunday, January 19th. A special ecumenical service will begin at 3 p.m. at First Baptist Church, Hyannis. You can also access this online at fbchyannis.org. The service will feature keynote speaker Roberto Maiti, the creator of the WGBH documentary Legacy of Love, which explores the early years of Dr. King's and Coretta Scott's relationship while they were students living in Boston. The event will welcome participants of the Cape Cod YMCA Achievers Program and young students from Hyannis West Elementary School who will recite their I Have a Dream speeches written when they were in second grade. And speaking of MLK Day, the town of Bourne will observe that holiday schedule. The town's non-emergency offices and services will be closed a full day on Monday. This includes Town Hall, the Bourne Veterans Memorial Community Center, the Jonathan Bourne Public Library, and the ISWM. All offices and services will reopen on Tuesday. The Bourne curbside rubbish recycling collection schedule will be altered for the week. All pickups will be shifted ahead by one day. The Department of Public Works will have additional crews performing curbside collection these weeks and maybe in some areas earlier than usual. Residents are asked to make sure to have barrels out by 7 a.m. Regular scheduled pickup for curbside collection will resume the week of January 27th. And this story, the lawsuit filed by Bourne resident and former state Senate hopeful Carrie McRae against the town clerks and registrars of voters in Bourne, Falmouth, Mashpee, and Sandwich, as well as against Secretary of State William Galvin, was dismissed on January 7th. The case, which stemmed from Ms. McRae's allegations of mishandled ballots in September's primary election, was dismissed without prejudice or costs. According to the Mass Court Cases database, a hearing was scheduled for January 9th at 2:30 p.m. but wasn't held because the case was settled. No further info was available. Neither Ms. McRae nor Bourne Town Clerk Barry Johnson could be reached for comment before the time of publication. And from the opinion page today, this editorial titled The High Stakes of Cybersecurity. Earlier this week, Bourne Police and the town issued a joint statement about a cyber attack on Bourne's IT system. We wish we could tell our readers more, but the fact of the matter is that is really all we know. The town and police are being tight-lipped about what happened, something we can understand given the sensitivity of such an issue and the ongoing investigation. Cyber attacks must be taken seriously as they can be detrimental to anyone who falls victims, whether that be an individual, a private business, or even a local government. Just last year in June, the town of Arlington reported that it lost $445,000 that was intended to pay a contractor for work on a high school building project when the town was hit by a cyber attack. Through what is known as a business email compromise, cyber criminals were able to commit wire fraud by phishing, using spoofed email addresses and compromised email accounts to intercept payments intended for the legitimate contractor. Reportedly, the threat activity occurred in the town's Microsoft system. Ultimately, though, the town's bank and insurance helped recover some of the funds and offset the losses, and the town manager said no sensitive data were compromised. That was not the case, however, when a cyber attack all but halted the city of Lowell's municipal operations in 2023. The attack reportedly knocked out Lowell's phones, emails, financial, human resources, and asset management and revenue systems. The breach was pretty serious, with large amounts of data being exfiltrated and the city being locked out of its own systems. The local paper later reported that 5 gigabytes of city data, including personal and personnel data such as confidential medical billing records and employee disciplinary cases, was shared both in private online channels and on the dark web. An apparent threat of more data being shared unless a ransom was paid was made by a group connected to the dark web. The city reportedly didn't pay the ransom, and data leaks were later connected to a Russian hacker known to law enforcement. In the end, all computers had to be shut down, wiped, and restored, and the impact was long-lasting. The police department's computer-aided dispatch system was disabled in the April 2023 attack, which was reportedly not restored until the following May, and a large amount of data was ultimately leaked. There was another attack on Lowell School District the following spring, but it was far less detrimental as the cybersecurity software in place blocked the outside attempt to gain access to the district's file server. With so little to go on amid the ongoing investigation into the cyber attack on the town of Bourne, we are left to wonder what happened. Looking at similar incidents in other municipalities helped us get a better idea of what could be at stake. Maybe it was similar to the aforementioned incidents, maybe it was nothing of the sort. For the sake of the town and its residents, we certainly hope it is the latter, but the fact remains we just don't know yet. That, unfortunately, is the nature of this kind of breaking news. As soon as we do know, though, our readers will be the first to know. And here's a column called Bourne Musings, written by Wesley Ewell, who's retired from a career in community planning and real estate. He writes, "Do we need a new library?" Paula and I love books. She reads 2 or 3 new books every month, and I have an extensive library of reference books with a few classic works of fiction by my favorite authors. We rarely visit our town library, though. At our age, reading printed pages leads to eye strain and nodding off. Paula keeps electronic tablets handy and is an active user of the multi-town Clams library service. With a tablet, she can adjust font size, background, and typeface color and learn the meaning or etymology of an unfamiliar word with the press of a key. I work on a desktop computer with a large monitor that can display multiple windows. And although I love writing while sitting next to a wall of books, I now do most of my research online. When it comes to reading history or fiction, I prefer listening to audiobooks. In the 1980s, my work required driving alone more than 40,000 miles a year. To stay alert and avoid boredom, I rented books on tape and listened to many of the lengthy novels by Leon Uris and others that I never seemed to have time to read. I found my retention of what I heard was much higher than when I read words from a page. While there will always be people who want to borrow printed books, libraries have evolved to meet changing cultural needs. Most of us now get our information more efficiently from electronic media. We see the effect of this trend when we visit the new or recently expanded libraries in surrounding towns. While those buildings still have book stacks, they are more oriented to computer stations, listening carols, and meeting rooms. Bourne's library is similar, but on a smaller scale. The Bourne Library is doing everything right, but needs more meeting space in a building that is not about to collapse from age and overuse. When I received the questionnaire the library board sent out a few weeks ago, I asked my friend and neighbor, Amy Sharp, to send me the building inspection reports. As someone who has managed or been involved in the conversion of a dozen obsolete school and factory buildings into new uses, I was appalled at what I read. The building was very lightly built to begin with and has been further weakened by subsequent modifications. In my opinion, there is nothing worth saving in the old structure other than the classic design and appearance of the facade. I suggest the town raise the old building and construct a new one on the same site. The facade could be a replica of the old one or a more modern interpretation that incorporates key elements of the old design, such as the brick walls, multi-pane windows, sloped roof, and the bell tower. I would also like to see the new building become a regular meeting place like the Veterans Memorial Community Center, with similar programs for residents living east of the canal who do not like to drive across the bridge to Buzzards Bay. And again, that was written by Wesley Ewell, who's retired from a career in community planning, real estate development, and construction project management. He lives in Bourne. And we've reached the halfway point in our broadcast, and I will now read today's obituaries. Thomas A. Stevens, Sr. of Bourne, died at home on January 10th following a lengthy illness. He was 64. Born in Weymouth, he was a graduate of Weymouth High School and worked as a computer programmer at Fidelity Investments before he founded his own company, TAS Computer Consulting, in 1996. Most recently, he worked for Hilton Grand Vacations. Mr. Stevens loved the ocean and spent most of his life on Cape Cod. He enjoyed night fishing for stripers along the canal, getting fish and chips from Seafood Sam's, and spending long beach days at Sandy Neck Beach or Monk's Cove. He was also a military history enthusiast and served as Revolutionary War reenactor with the Yarmouth Minutemen. He was a parishioner of St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church in Pocasset. He leaves his wife, Elizabeth Stevens, his children, Thomas Andrew Stevens, Jr. of Hyde Park, Mary Goodwin of Bellingham, Nicholas Stevens of Lexington, South Carolina, Christopher Stevens of West Warwick, Rhode Island, Teresa Stevens of Wilmington, North Carolina, and Juliet Johns of Stoneham, 8 siblings and 10 grandchildren. A Mass will be celebrated at 11 a.m. on Friday, January 24th at Corpus Christi Catholic Parish in East Sandwich, followed by burial at Sandwich Town Cemetery on Route 130. Albert J. Hill II of Pocasset, a Vietnam veteran, died at home on January 9th. He was 89. Born in Boston, he graduated from Needham High School before joining the U.S. Air Force. He served 2 tours in Vietnam and, in his more than 20 years in the military, was stationed in Idaho, Massachusetts, Texas, Washington, Wyoming, Canada, Italy, and Korea. During that time, he attained the rank of Master Sergeant and was a member of the Air Force competitive shooting team. Following his honorable discharge, Mr. Hill worked for Energy Machinery as an industrial equipment sales rep. He later worked for RDS Equipment of Dartmouth, a retirement job he loved. He was an avid reader and gardener, loved to do a crossword, and enjoyed a good Western. He leaves his children, Victor Hill and his wife Danielle of Quincy, and Dolores Consoletti and her husband Christian of Wareham. 5 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, and many nieces, nephews, and extended family members. Services were held on January 16th in Buzzards Bay. Donald Whittier Cunningham, Jr. of Bourne, died at his home on January 13th. He was 70. Born in Wareham, he served in the U.S. Navy during Vietnam and later held many maintenance positions until his retirement from Whitehall Estates as maintenance director. His children referred to him as Mr. Fix-It. He enjoyed fishing, discussing politics, coaching his son's youth football team, and riding horses when he lived on a ranch in Illinois. He leaves his children, Kelly Kenna of Buzzards Bay, Eve Cunningham of Monument Beach, Sylvia Slend and her husband Christopher of Wisconsin, and Drew Cunningham of Carborough, North Carolina. 5 grandchildren and siblings Karen Anderson and Julie Goulart. In addition to his parents, he was predeceased by his sister, Donna Hendrick. Burial with military honors will take place at 11:30 a.m. on July 2nd at the Massachusetts National Cemetery in Bourne, followed by a lunch at his home. And the following residents, former residents, or family of residents of Falmouth, Mashpee, and Sandwich recently died. Visit capenews.net to read the complete obituary news stories. Gloria Cronin, 97 of Mashpee, died on January 6th. Mary Miranda Gomes, 93 of Falmouth, January 11th. Kathleen Holowienko, 67, of East Falmouth, January 1st. Thomas Kenny, 83, of Falmouth, January 10th. Sigrid C. Murphy, 100, of Falmouth, died on January 7th. Dr. James J. Riley, Jr., 84, of Pomponessa, died on January 7th. Walter Slobodin, 84, of Falmouth, January 12th. Clarence Smith, 87, of Mashpee, January 9th. Virginia Sullivan, 94, of Sandwith, January 11th. And Joseph Vinitsky, 67, of Reno, Nevada, died on January 4th. From Bourne, Blanche Ellen Cody died unexpectedly on Tuesday, December 24th, 2024. She was born in Wareham in 1942. She grew up in Bourne and attended Bourne Public Schools, graduating from Bourne High School as salutatorian of the class of 1960. She later attended University of Massachusetts in Amherst, and then attended University of Wisconsin in Green Bay, graduating in the early 70s with her BA degree, after which she received her master's degree in museum studies from Eastern Illinois University, Champaign-Urbana. Blanche was a member of the Bourne Society for Historic Preservation. Serving on the board, she produced their newsletter, Preservation Matters, for several years and worked on a number of their special projects. Blanche was a member of the Bourne Historical Commission, having first been appointed in 2015. At the time of her death, she was vice chairman. She was a member of the Bourne United Methodist Church, where she was a trustee, and on the Parish Relations Committee, as well as being treasurer for United Women in Faith. She was a member of the board of the Oakland Grove Cemetery Association. She was a member of Plymouth Patuxent Museums and the Benjamin Nye Homestead and Museum. She was a member of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston and the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Blanche's husband, Bruce Cody, and her parents predeceased her. She is survived by her sister, Deborah Burgess. There will be a memorial service at the Bourne United Methodist Church, 37 Sandwich Road, Bourne Village, on January 25th at 11 a.m. Burial will be private. Back to the news, and the following are excerpts from the Bourne Police Department logs dated Friday, January 10th through Wednesday, January 15th. On Friday, January 10th at 5:34 a.m., police responded to a single vehicle crash on the southbound side of MacArthur Boulevard. Police said the driver of a green Kia Niro was traveling north on MacArthur Boulevard and took the turnaround at Clay Pond Road to go south. The driver, identified as Derek Conti, 48, of Fall River, drove into the wooded area in the median. He was trapped in his vehicle and had to be removed by mechanical means by Bourne firefighters. He was flown to a trauma center for treatment of suspected serious injuries. No citations were issued to Mr. Conti, police said. However, there are possible charges to follow. A motor vehicle stop on Scenic Highway led to a citation issued. Police said an officer on patrol saw a yellow 2000 Toyota Camry go around the East Rotary in Buzzards Bay. A random query with the RMV indicated the registered owner's license was suspended. The officer followed the vehicle and stopped it on Scenic Highway. The driver matched the description of the owner provided by the RMV. A criminal citation was issued for suspended operation of a motor vehicle, and a licensed operator took possession of the car. The name of the driver wasn't released pending arraignment. On Saturday, January 11th, police responded at 8:04 a.m. to a single-car crash on County Road. Police said the driver of a black 2004 Acura crashed into a utility pole at the intersection of County Road and Elm Avenue. Police ID'd the driver as Kyle Champney, 31, of Monument Beach. He was taken to an area hospital for treatment of injuries. Police said he was issued a citation for speeding. At 4:55 p.m., police responded to a two-vehicle crash on Bourndale Road. Police said the driver of a red Ford Escape collided with a gray Dodge Dakota at the intersection of Bourndale Road and Chamber Rock Road. Police said the driver of the Ford, identified as Christian Ortega, 41, of East Providence, was turning off Chamber Rock Road and onto Bourndale Road. Mr. Ortega cut off the Dakota, which had the right-of-way, police said. Two people inside the Ford, including Mr. Ortega, were taken to a hospital for treatment of minor injuries. Mr. Ortega was issued a citation for failure to yield. On Monday, January 13th, police were called at 2:21 p.m. to a two-car crash on Sandwich Road near Upper Cape Cod Regional Technical School. Police said the driver of a gray Kia Sedona was behind a white GMC Sierra in heavy traffic. Both vehicles were traveling toward the Bourne Bridge when the Kia rear-ended the Sierra, police said. No one was hurt. The driver of the Kia, identified as Priscilla Carignan, 68, of East Falmouth, was cited for following too closely. On Tuesday, January 14th at 8:07 p.m., a motor vehicle stop on State Road led to citations. Police said that an officer on patrol conducted a random query of a gray 2023 Mercedes parked in the lot at the CVS Pharmacy in the East Rotary. The RMV indicated that the registered owner's driver's license was under suspension, police said. The vehicle left the lot and the officer followed onto Scenic Highway where the car was clocked going 60 in a 40-mile-per-hour zone. The car was stopped by the entrance to the Sagamore Bridge and the driver identified as the vehicle owner. A citation was issued for operating a motor vehicle after suspension, and a licensed operator came to take possession of the car. The driver was also given a verbal warning for speeding. On Wednesday, January 15th, police made an arrest at 12:40 p.m. at a home on Beach Street. Police said that officers were aware of an active warrant out of Falmouth District Court for Corey Morrison, 33, of Bourne. The warrant charged Mr. Morrison with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, police said. Officers went to his residence where they found him and arrested him without incident. He was booked at the station and immediately taken to Falmouth District Court for arraignment. An arrest was made at 4:38 p.m. on MacArthur Boulevard. Police said that an officer was dispatched to the northbound side of MacArthur Boulevard on reports of a highly erratic vehicle. The caller said the vehicle, a gray 2012 Honda Ridgeline pickup truck, went around the Bourne Bridge Rotary and headed south on MacArthur Boulevard. The officer located the vehicle in the parking lot of the McDonald's restaurant. The driver, identified as Daniel Kelly Jr., was put through roadside assessments, after which the officer determined that he was under the influence of drugs. Mr. Kelly was arrested and booked at the station. He was charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of drugs and negligent operation of a motor vehicle. Bail was set at a personal recognizance plus a sober ride. He was later released on bail. And here's this week's weekly Nature Watch column written by Mary Richmond titled, It's the Little Things. January is generally a quiet month around here. We are fortunate not to be in the path of destructive and devastating wildfires like our California friends and families. We are also fortunate to not be buried under feet of snow like others. Cape Cod, surrounded by water as it is, has a mostly moderate winter and allows for a lot of wandering outdoors if we are so inclined. Humbled and horrified by the news this week of so many losing everything in a matter of hours, I have found myself wandering outdoors, looking for the small miracles nature provides on a daily basis. The old game farm in East Sandwich is always a good place to meander and take in some amazing views. On this day, the salt marsh was covered with a crust of ice left behind. In the early morning sun, it looked like frosting on a cake, the old pest control ditches appearing like streaks of chocolate with their dark, peaty trenches exposed by low tide. The sun was bright, making the ice both soft and shiny, and a lone kingfisher chattered as it flew over the open water of Scorton Creek. A breeze fluttered dried oak leaves still hanging on branches, and the pine needles were crisp beneath my sneakered feet. It was quite cold, but I was dressed to deal with it, and it felt great to be outside. As I walked down the road, I realized this usually busy spot didn't have a single other car anywhere. I passed a woman walking a dog, but that was my only human contact for over an hour. A small flock of chickadees, titmice, and at least one downy woodpecker were busy foraging in the shrubs and trees nearby, keeping in touch with occasional calls and chips. There are often nuthatches in these small, loosely organized winter flocks as well, but on this day I didn't see or hear any. I did hear and see a flock of cedar waxwings, however. They were chowing down on berries of different kinds, but mostly cedar and holly berries. The winterberry bushes had already been stripped. Robins soon joined the waxwings, and a noisy, wing-fluttering party ensued as they all jockeyed for position to grab and gobble the best berries. Along my way, I spotted a white-throated sparrow scratching around under some bushes. It was busy moving leaves and twigs aside to find some juicy tidbits, and as I stood watching, I realized I was surrounded by a group of at least half a dozen white-throated sparrows. These perky sparrows are a bit larger than our resident song sparrow and can be identified by their distinctive white throat patches. They can also burst into song at any moment, even on a cold January day. Listen for their Old Sam Peabody Peabody song as they forage and keep in touch with each other. Here for the winter, they will quietly leave come spring. On another day, I found a tuft of rabbit fur in the backyard. It was a good-sized tuft, and I knew that my yard bunny had met an unfortunate end, most likely the end of the talons of the red-tailed hawk that frequents our neighborhood. This saddened me, since my yard bunny and I had a nice relationship, especially since our dog passed away. There are other rabbits around, and I'm sure one will take over the yard, but this one had her babies here last summer and always hung out close to our back door when she wasn't nosing around the patches of clover in the summer or the cuttings of multiflora rose hips I cut and left on the ground for her. As I examined the small clump of soft fur, I could see the various layers of warmth and protection it had afforded her. The fur closest to her body was dark and very soft. This is true for many mammals. The dark fur attracts and holds the warmth from the winter sun, and the density of the fur keeps the body warmer than coarse fur. That coarser fur is the outer fur with long, dark guard hairs. These not only create a barrier to keep in the warmth, but they also keep out the cold winds and provide some protection from rain and snow. Holding the fur in my hand was one of those moments that was both sad and wondrous. What a little miracle animal fur is. Feathers and fins, too. What an amazing world. If you need to find little miracles, winter is a good time to do so. These are the days when we can examine the tiny buds that will be the flowers and leaves of next spring and summer. We may find bird nests taken over by mice staying warm or cocoons of moths hidden beneath the leaves. On warmer winter days, we may see a turtle swimming beneath the ice in ponds or find the tracks of otters, or better yet, an otter slide in the mud leading to the water's edge. There's a lot of beauty in winter, but we have to get outside to find and enjoy it. We always have a choice in winter. We can hide inside and stay safe and warm, or we can don our winter hats, mittens, scarves, and jackets and get outside. It takes a little more effort than a walk in warmer weather, but it's well worth it. You never know what you'll find. You could be like the birder in Chatham that looked up and found a rare and beautiful hawk. Or you could just enjoy what nature has to offer in the moment, like a tuft of fur or a feather. Again, that was written by Mary Richmond, who's an artist, writer, naturalist, and educator who grew up on the Cape and lives in Hyannis. Amazing Animal Ambassadors will give 2 shows featuring live animals on Saturday, January 18th. That's today. So the first one will be at 10 and the second at 11. So forget that story because that event has already happened. I'm sorry. Part of the perils of reading the Bourne Enterprise on Saturday when it came out on Friday. In some entertainment news, Falmouth Jazz will welcome the new year with New York vocalist Alexis Cole at the West Falmouth Library on Sunday, January 19th at 4 p.m. Miss Cole will be joined by Marshall Wood on bass and Matt DeChamplain at the piano. The concert is co-sponsored by Falmouth Jazz and the West Falmouth Library. Miss Cole is a winner of the New York Jazzmobile and Montreux Jazz Festival vocal competitions, a finalist in the prestigious Sarah Vaughan International Vocal Competition, and a recipient of the Swing Journal Gold Disc Award. Based in New York City, Miss Cole has played and taught in locales worldwide, including teaching at an affiliate of the Berklee College of Music in Ecuador and as a faculty member in the jazz voice programs at SUNY Purchase, William Patterson University, and Western Connecticut State. Doors open at 3:30 p.m. for the 4 p.m. performance. The West Falmouth Library is at 575 West Falmouth Highway. Tickets and details about upcoming concerts are available at falmouthjazz.org. Cape Symphony Orchestra will present Passport to Rome, the third concert of its 2024-25 Masterpiece Series, on Saturday and Sunday, January 25th and 26th at the Barnstable Performing Arts Center. The program includes masterworks by Rossini, Vivaldi, and will be conducted by Darko Butorak. Cape Symphony Orchestra principal musicians will be featured soloists. Mr. Butorak currently serves as music director of the Asheville Symphony and the Tallahassee Symphony Orchestra. He has collaborated with soprano Renee Fleming, pianist Garrick Olson and John Kimura Parker, tenor Lawrence Bronley, cellist Colin Garr, and others. 4 Cape Cod Symphony Orchestra musicians will perform Vivaldi's concertos as featured artists. Principal oboist Gillian Hahn, principal bassoonist Merrill Summers, principal cellist Jacques Lee Wood, and assistant principal cellist Valeda Miragas. Cape Symphony welcomes audience involvement in its music director search. The public may observe Mr. Butorak in rehearsal with the orchestra from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Thursday at the Barnstable Performing Arts Center. Passport to Rome ticket holders are invited to get to know him at a question and answer session led by assistant conductor Joel Marchio, beginning 1 hour before each performance. Attendees will be encouraged to convey their thoughts through a survey to be emailed the following week. Passport to Rome will be performed on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. at the Barnstable Performing Arts Center, 744 West Main Street in Hyannis. Tickets can be purchased online or by calling or visiting the box office. Tickets for students age 6 to 22 are 50% off individual ticket prices. And the Cotuit Center for the Arts will present mezzo-soprano Denise Graves in concert on Sunday, January 26th at 2 p.m. Joining Miss Graves on stage will be Laura Ward, Artistic Director of Lyric Fest. Miss Graves has performed at the world's premier opera houses, including the Metropolitan Opera, where she made her debut in 1995. In addition to her operatic career, Miss Graves has contributed to cultural and historical moments, including her performance at the memorial service for U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in 2020. She is also the founder of the Denise Graves Foundation, an organization committed to mentoring and supporting emerging artists in opera and beyond. Tickets for the performance are available at cotuit.org. And local author Michael Tugis has 2 new books out for young readers, both with connections to Cape Cod and the islands. The first book is a young adult version of his 2000 book, Fatal Forecast. An amazing story of survival, the book tells the November 1980 story of 2 small boats setting out from Hyannis for George's Bank, 100 miles out to sea. The National Weather Service had forecast typical fall weather, and the young crew aboard the Sea Fever and the Fair Wind had no reason to expect that this trip would be any different from the dozens they'd made earlier in the season. What they didn't know was that the only weather buoy in the area was malfunctioning, as the National Weather Service had failed to reveal this critical data. As the 2 boats headed out, a colossal storm was brewing, a furious maelstrom that would batter the boats with 60-foot waves and hurricane-force winds. The boats were hit by a 90-foot rogue wave. Of the 8 crewmen, only 4 survived, and one, Ernie Hazard, spent 2.5 days in the North Atlantic. The Coast Guard called his survival the Thanksgiving miracle. Fatal Forecast, an incredible true story of courage, is suitable for ages 9 to 15. His second book, Ocala and the Pilgrims, is a historical fiction novel for ages 6 to 10. It chronicles the Pilgrims' first year in the New World leading up to Thanksgiving, as told from the perspective of a young Native American. As the Pilgrims anchor at Plymouth, 10-year-old Ocala becomes the first Native American to witness these intriguing newcomers. His discovery prompts him to rush back to his village and alert his family and the respected Sachem Massasoit. Intrigued, the Sachem sends Ocala and his father to discreetly observe the Pilgrims from the forest safety, seeking to understand these strangers. The first Thanksgiving is described near the end of the book, which also features historical figures such as Massasoit, Squanto, Samoset, and William Bradford. And here are some other events and classes that are happening around town. The Adult Aqua Core and Strengthening classes at the Atria Woodbriar Pool via Falmouth Community School. Now, these classes begin the week of January 13th and run for 8 weeks. You can find more details at falmouthcommunityschool.org. Osteoporosis exercises can be had at the Gus Canty Community Center on Mondays at 9:30 a.m. Admission is free, but bring your own weights and bands, and that's at 790 Main Street in Falmouth. The Yarn Basket Stitch and Share on Tuesdays 5 to 6:30 p.m. and Thursdays 1 to 2:30 p.m. Bring a knitting or crochet project. No reservations are required. You can email Elizabeth at yarnbasketcc@gmail.com with any questions. Dinner and a movie. Champions of the Golden Valley at Redfield Auditorium on Woods Hole. That's tonight, January 18th at 7 p.m. Doors open at 6:30. Feature documentary by Ben Sturgalewski tracks the story of young athletes in remote Afghanistan pulling off a ski race despite minimal gear before the collapse of their country displaced them across the globe. Tickets are $16, $12 for Woods Hole Film Festival members. Before the movie, patrons may receive a 10% discount on the meal portion of dinner at the Captain Kidd Restaurant and the Quahog Republic Leaside Pub, 45 Water Street, Woods Hole. Also today, the 18th, Saturday, Sandwich Open Mic at the First Church UCC in the Gates Room. Sign-up is from 4:30 to 5. Performances are from 5 to 7. Now, storytellers, poets, comedians, playwrights, spoken word performers, and musicians of all styles and skill levels are welcome. Mics, amps, music stands, seats, and an electric piano are set up for use. Performers are also free to bring their own equipment. Performers 18 and younger will go first. It's organized in collaboration with Sandwich Arts Alliance, and that's at 136 Main Street in Sandwich. And the Falmouth Chorale call for singers. John Wesley United Methodist Church rehearsals begin Tuesday, January 21st at 6:30. For more detail, email info@falmouthchorale.org. And that's all the time I have for today. This is your reader, Beth, saying thank you for listening and thank you for your continued support of the Audible Local Ledger.